All right. So, are Christians supposed to keep the Ten Commandments? Now, at some point, I'm going to make a bunch of videos. Maybe I'll do another series, a bunch of videos on sort of the differences between the Old Covenant, the New Covenant, the Covenant of Moses versus the Covenant of Christ. But for this video, I just wanted to address the fact, or the notion rather, of are we supposed to keep the Ten Commandments? Because there's a lot of people who will say that the laws of Leviticus got done away with when Jesus was nailed to the cross, but they'll still say that we need to follow the Ten Commandments, we still need to follow these 10 laws of Moses. Is that true? And the answer is no, but you have to be really careful because here's the thing. Morality has always existed. Morality existed at the time of Adam and Eve. Morality existed after the fall. When Cain killed Abel, God didn't say, hey, that's fine, there's no law against that. Like, Cain got in a bunch of trouble. So murder was a sin long before God said, thou shalt not kill. You understand? So morality has always existed. It existed at the time of Adam and Eve. It existed at the time of the fall. It existed at the time of Noah. You know, the whole reason God flooded the whole earth was because the whole earth was wicked. So there was moral standards even then. I mean, you could say we had, or they had, excuse me, like the covenant of conscience, because everything was conscience-based. There wasn't an actual codified law, so to speak, right? So at the time of Moses, God, rather than flood the whole earth, says, well, let me take this group of people, let me give them a bunch of rules, let me isolate them from everybody else, and let me just work on this people, exclusively. And so that's what God did. So Moses is not the invention, right? Does not bring about the invention of morality. It was just the codification of morality. And a lot of stuff that he did wasn't even about morality. It was about isolating the Jews from the Gentiles, making them stand out in particular ways. I mean, some of those laws just had to do with exactly that. Like when it says, don't mix together different types of fabrics. Well, that's just dealing with keeping the Jews separate from the Gentiles. Like, I want you to be thinking in terms of separation, so much so that I don't even want you to mix particular fabrics together, right? So when Jesus comes, he doesn't come to do away with morality, but he does come to do away with the Moses covenant. He comes to bring in a new covenant. And it's not a covenant that eradicates morality. In fact, it's a covenant that augments reality. And this is what so many Christians miss. It doesn't eliminate. See, people think you're under grace, therefore we're eliminating morality, therefore the Ten Commandments don't matter. No, you're missing the point. The commandments themselves don't matter, but the substance of the commandments matter, right? Because when Jesus was talking to the Jews at one point, I think it's around Matthew 5, but when he's saying all those things about, you've heard it said, thou shalt not kill. Well, I say unto you, if you hate your brother, you've murdered him in your heart already. Well, see, that's not a downgrade, that's an upgrade. That's saying in the past it was wrong to kill somebody. Now I'm telling you it's wrong to even think about killing somebody, right? You've heard it said, thou shalt not, covet your neighbor's wife. Well, I say if you even, or thou shalt not commit adultery. Well, if you look on your, a woman with lust, you've already committed adultery with her in your heart. Same concept. Jesus didn't say, hey, I'm bringing grace, therefore adultery is okay. He's saying, I'm bringing grace, but now you need to understand that not only should you not commit adultery, but you shouldn't even think about committing adultery. You shouldn't even fantasize about adultery. You've heard it said, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Now I say, turn the other cheek. So everything got leveled up. Everything got ramped up with the advent of this new covenant. So the laws themselves, the actual laid out by Moses laws are done away with, but the substance transfers over and is augmented in this new covenant. So let me give you a story, because I feel like this will help make all of this make sense. Or not a story, but just a metaphor or whatever. So imagine that you have a brother and a sister and they just don't get along. Like the brother is a really bad brother. You know, he messes with his sister. He tears up her homework. He makes fun of her. You know, he bullies her. If she gets bullied at school, he eggs on the bullies. Like he does all this stuff that is just so bad and so wrong. So the parents say, well, we got to give you a list of commandments. Don't beat up your sister. Don't tear up her homework. Don't make fun of her. Don't pull her hair. Don't, you know, help the bullies, you know, make fun of her. They're going to give him this list, excuse me, of all these things like he can't do, right? So now imagine that his sister is like hit by a car and she goes to the hospital and the brother goes to see her at the hospital and he's just broken over what he sees. He's like, oh my God, I've been such a bad brother. Look at her. I mean, she's so messed up. And what if she doesn't live? And so the brother decides like, if she comes out of this, I got to be a completely different person, right? So sure enough, she comes out of it. And so the brother starts to help her with her homework, walks her to school. You know, if bullies pick on her, he handles the bullies. Like he becomes this very good brother, right? So the parents take those commandments that they wrote up for the son and they just tear them all in half, right? They tear all those commandments in half. Not because now it's okay to beat up the sister, not because now you can pull her hair, not because now you can tear up her homework, but because you've entered into a new covenant. You've entered into like a covenant of love, in effect. So the grace that you get from God, the grace in this new covenant, is to wipe away your old sins, but grace is just part of the equation. This is a grace covenant. This is an indwelling Holy Spirit covenant. You can see from the things Paul says and from the things Jesus says, everything's been leveled up, right? Like Jesus says, only that your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees shall ye enter the kingdom of heaven. He's telling you these Pharisees are a bunch of rule followers. If you want to go to heaven, you got to actually become someone who's good. You got to actually be indwelled by the Holy Spirit. You got to actually be born again. You got to actually become a new creation. You got to actually do all these things. And then now you are made into a heavenite. You are made into somebody who is, you know, worthy, so to speak, of heaven, not of works, lest any man should boast. But we're talking about, again, a heart change. We're talking about, because see, the brother becoming a good brother was never predicated on him following the rules. Following the rules didn't make him a good brother. He was following the rules and he was still a bad brother because all he did was follow the rules. He still wanted to beat up his sister. He still wanted to tear up her homework. He still wanted to do all these things, but he didn't do all these things because he didn't want to get in trouble with his parents. So that new covenant that he entered into is a covenant where now he actually wants to do the good things. He actually wants to help the sister. He actually wants to help her do her homework. He actually wants to do all of this stuff. So the new covenant contains grace, but even more than grace, it contains you being full of the Holy Spirit. And now that you're full of the Holy Spirit, you can actually live out like a good life. You can actually have the type of life that God is pleased with, because now you're doing it through him, with his power, with his spirit, with his strength. He's working through you and giving you the strength you need to live out this life, to walk this walk, to all these sorts of things. So the Ten Commandments themselves are done. They're done away with. That covenant is a dead covenant. It's dead, it's buried, it doesn't exist anymore. But the substance of that covenant, the moral substance of that covenant, is carried into this new covenant. And that's why you see Paul say things against fornication, witchcraft, rebellion, lasciviousness, lying, etc., etc., etc. Because morality has always existed. It will always exist. It was codified under Moses, and now we're in this Holy Spirit covenant where all of your goodness comes by your relationship with God and by your redemption through the sacrifice of Jesus. So I hope that helps. I'll probably make some more videos about this topic because I see a lot of people talk about this type of stuff quite a bit. But yeah, 10 Commandments are done, but the substance lives on in some effect eternally. That's it. Thanks for watching. Love you guys. Aloha. God bless.